Okay. So Graham, sorry, for the mess up. It took a while, but thank you for availing yourself. Just to explain to you what's going on. So I attended a very interesting elective that I chose purposefully called Sales and Business Development. Because I wanted to gain more of an understanding of actually what goes on in sales.
Yes.
So I selected you as one of the two individuals that I'm going to interview. I needed a person who works in sales and who has a team reporting to them.
Okay,
Okay.
just hold on for me quickly for a minute. The
Okay.
signal is coming and going for me. Let me see if I move around or I sit somewhere else, if I'll get better sound
Okay,
quality.
no problem. Take your time.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. If I do and if I move around, it's only because the sound is breaking up on my side.
Okay, and you look great in your Stellantis shirts, but let me not steal your thunder. First, I would like you to tell us a bit about yourself, like what your current title is, the company you work for, and how long you've been with the company, and how long you've actually been in the current role. So over to you, Graham.
Okay, so just for clarity, you want to hear where I'm at currently, and you
Yes.
want to hear a little bit of the career side as well?
Yes, but we're also interested to know who Graham Sacco is. I think that's
So, okay, so I'll give you that. You'll guide me if I'm off track a bit.
no problem.
So, Graham Sacco, I've been in the motor industry um, for the last 25 years. I've come through the motor industry from being a graduate at Nissan South Africa, and I'm currently holding the position of head of dealer sales or dealer sales operations for Stellantis, managing Opel, Peugeot, Citroen, Fiat, Alfa, and the Jeep brands, and recently the Leaf brand as well. Well, in my portfolio, all 32 dealer points around the country falls under my portfolio, of which we've got four regional managers that, from a day-to-day point of view, enforcing KPIs, standards for a retailer, from retail sales all the way through to customer satisfaction standards that they manage, and I manage this group or this team of people.
Okay, no, so that's great. So you mentioned the word Stellantis. So I mean, I don't know about you, but I did not know who or what Stellantis was. So could you tell us a bit more about Stellantis? And this, you mentioned the brands that you look after, but could you maybe dive a bit deeper into the products and the product offering? Which countries you operate in, or and if you are in other countries, or and where's the headquarters of the company as well?
Okay, so I'm an infant in the Stellantis world, so I'm about a year in the Stellantis world, so I'll try to give you as best as possible into my current knowledge. I must say my biggest downfall or shortcoming in this current role is I've literally come and hit the ground running. So all the peripheral stuff in terms of all the markets that we're in, all the bases that we operate in is not 100% familiar, but I'll give you a summary. So Stellantis was formed about 4 years ago as a company from an automotive point of view. We house and we encompass a number of brands that used to operate on their own. So Peugeot, Citroen in South Africa used to be under one company, was not part of that, and that was part of the GM family at one stage as well, the General Motors family. And Fiat, Chrysler, Alfa was part of the Italian side, if I can call it that, and part of a different organization. Stellantis came in 4 years ago. Some of these companies were not in a good way for various reasons. Stellantis came, saw the opportunity. They bought up all of these companies, which from a multinational point of view was quite complex because on the one hand, we got the Fiat Alfa Jeep side of the business, which is Fiat Alfa being Italian, the Jeep side of the business being American, as well as Chrysler. And in the old days, I don't know if you can remember, but Jeep and Chrysler used to be part of Mercedes-Benz,
Yes, yes, I remember.
which is the American faction. And that was roughly 2006, 2007 when the Daimler-Chrysler relationship split, where Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, and all of those American brands fell out of favor. So they were kind of they were kind of stepchildren, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you got your traditional French brands, which was Peugeot, Citroën, which was traditionally French. And before the merger of Stellantis and all of these brands, Peugeot Citroën acquired the Opel brand, which is German. So essentially, we've got Italian, we've got American, we've got French. What am I still missing? And we've got German in there.
And so Chinese now. And Chinese.
And most recently, the Leap brand, where we've acquired outside of China, 51% brand share into a company, which is essentially a tech company that has become a car company.
Yes.
Obviously, gain access to technology. So, big multinational company, headquarters all over the world. I mean, from our recent CEO sits out in Italy. Another faction of our staff sit out in Germany from an Opel point of view, the G point of view out in America. So very diverse, multinational environment that we live in. The first from a under one roof multi-franchise setup, which is very complex. Various systems, various processes, very different for all these brands.
But so I mean about that. So when it comes to the product offering, I mean, how do you manage that? Because, like, it's not Toyota, where you're just worried about Toyota products and you've got your A segment, B segment. I mean, what product and which product offerings do you prioritize as well? Because, I mean, there's so many, so which are the key ones and, and for what reason are those the focal points?
So there's, yes, it is quite complex. Previous to me or previous to my time, I always looked into the Stellantis brands when they formed this company, and it is very complex. It was very complex. So firstly, it starts off as low down as the Citroën brand. So let me go back. Firstly, all these brands were competing with each other because traditionally, or back in the day, these were all competitors to each other. The company wasn't one company. Like I said, Peugeot, Citroën, Opel on the one side, Fiat, Chrysler, Alfa on the other side. So in terms of models, in terms of lineup, in terms of pricing strategies, there was obviously no allegiance prior to the joint venture that the company formed. So they were all competing. So the day that they merged globally, when they merged these brands, we found ourselves in a position where, for argument's sake, we had the Citroën brand, which was the entry, but it was all sourced via Europe. Then we also had the Peugeot brand, which was ex-Europe and also French, and you had models within both of those derivatives that competed with each other.
Yeah.
As an example, panel vans is a very good one, where in all these brands, when the brands merged, you had Peugeot with the panel van. At one stage, you had Citroën with the panel van, you had Fiat with the panel van, and you had Opel with the panel van. Now imagine that ecosystem in one segment of vehicle sales. All four of those brands compete with each other. Now they become family, and they can no longer compete with each other. They need to complement each other. So a lot of things then happened 4 years later, and 4 years sounds like a long time, but it's actually a short time in terms of this merger. So it's not just people coming together; it's brands coming together. It's complexity being taken out of it. So, firstly, Citroën is a core pillar of this organization or of this setup. That's where the bulk of our volume, probably between 60%, roughly 60% of our volume, comes out of the Citroën stable. We moved away from the European specification Citroën because, from a price point of view, and from an offering point of view, and from a market point of view, it wasn't competitive. Market, if you look at the likes of the Nissan that is India derived, Suzuki that is India derived, your price points are very different, your specs are very similar, but from a price point of view and a competitiveness point of view. So Citroën, we started sourcing from India, built in India, sourced in India, priced like any other car, and competitive now with Suzuki, the likes of Toyota sourced out of India, and the likes of Nissan Magnite sourced out of India. That's your entry point into the brand. So we removed the complexity of brands competing with each other. We created strategic, based on the South African market. For instance, the B segment where Suzuki Swift runs, we operate there with Citroën C3. And if you look at the next brand up in the lineup, which is Opel, they don't compete at all with those segments. So Citroen almost falls within its own, and it competes with the market.
Yes.
So,
You've actually
yes.
you've answered the next two questions. That's so funny, because the next question was the types of customers and customer segments you sell into. So you spoke about the Citroen one, which is obviously the B segment entry level. Touched on Opel. If you can maybe elaborate more on Opel, and then if you can touch on the segment that Peugeot sells into, and the same for Jeep, Alpha, and what way we intend to play in terms of Leap as well, the new addition to the family.
Okay. So Citroen obviously being, you asked from a core model point of view, Citroen being core model, Opel being core model, and Peugeot being core model. Citroen, because it operates in I call it the entry segment into the market from a B segment point of view and a B crossover point of view. Opel from it plays within that Polo segment, the topper end. I think it's the upper end of the B hatch segment that Polo plays within, and it's quite a dominant player. And I think Toyota plays there, or they used to play there with. They had what was it called?
Not the Urus. Was it not was it after the Urus and the Ranex?
Yes, it's the Urus.
Yeah.
So Opel Corsa plays within that. And then from a C crossover perspective, Opel Mokka, and all the Opels are sourced out of Germany and out of Europe. So price points being very similar to that of your competitors. And then most recently, the Grandland, which falls within that 800,000 rand space. So if I can define it almost between these two, between Citroen and Opel, Citroen starting at roughly your 200,000 rand price point, just over 200,000, 250,000 rand price point.
Yeah.
Ends at roughly just before 400. Shortly, we will go into the 400 segment with a fastback called Basalt, which will launch next month. And you can now start seeing the build up into the next segment, because it's very different customers, profiles, income streams.
Yes.
Then you go into Opel, which starts for a hatchback at roughly the 400, just over 400,000 rand price point for Opel Corsa, and you go all the way up to Mokka, which is 550,000 roughly, and then you move into completely your next space, which is at 800,000, 789,000, which is your Grandland space. Within that Grandland space, you play with the likes of Tiggo Pro, Cherry Tiggo Pro 7.
Yeah.
You play with the Kias at the top end. So essentially, you're starting to touch the premium segment. You're not quite there yet, but from a finishing point of view, from a looks, from a space point of view, again, build up from Citroen all the way to 250,000 to all the way up to 800,000 within the Opel space.
Yes.
Then the final pillar, and not final in terms of lineup, but final in terms of priority or in terms of volume, we go into the Peugeot segment. So recently launched Peugeot 2008. If you remember, again, we decluttered all this complexity and competitiveness. In the past, we used to have 2008, 3008, 5008 falling in various segments. But all of that was competitors to Opel.
Yes.
So all of that have now been removed. We've got a 2008, which is roughly at about just over the 500,000 rand mark, 550,000 rand mark. So almost in that same space as a Mokka, but a very different product offering. And then we play heavily in terms of Landtrek, which is your LCV. And exciting news is that we've put up a plant out in Kabesha where we will be producing this locally. So two segments in South Africa that is very dominant, very active, is your LCV segment. If you look at the likes of Ford, Toyota, Nissan, which are all local LCV producers in South Africa, we will shortly be one of the local producers as well, where we will produce a full LCV lineup, all the way down from a single cab fleet line product offering, all the way up to the privateer, and if I can call it the B2C customer, which is more retail orientated from a double cab perspective. Supply being for Africa to be used in Africa, as well as a portion of the MEA region, which is Middle East, which is the Middle East and Africa region, which we will supply.
Okay. No.
So that's the three pillars in terms of
the core
volume perspective and a growth perspective for this brand.
Yes, and then my big brother Jeep Alpha and the new Leap.
So from a Jeep and Alpha point of view, this 100% goes within the premium space. So we now start playing in the Mercedes-Benz, the BMW space. The nice thing about both those brands is they are extremely unique.
Yes.
It's not another premium brand offering that looks and feels almost the same, and the badges change, and it's just all about the plushness and the niceness. Jeep has a rich heritage. For many people that know Jeep, I think it was World War One where they supplied the Willys Jeep, and they stay true to form in terms of the grille and the way that the grille looks, the way that wheel arches look, its off-road capability, and also catering to some of the niche and the premium market. Jeep currently running with the Jeep Wrangler, which is sourced out of America, and we used to have, and we currently have, but it's on run out, we have the Jeep Grand Cherokee, which fits within that, if I can call some competitors, the X5, ML, Range Rover Sport space. We will move away from this. It's currently on run out, purely because new vehicle has not been homologated in right and drive for South Africa as yet, so we won't play there. Lots to come in that space, premium space in South Africa being very active as well, but 100% going into the premium space with both those brands. Heritage sits behind those brands. I mean, Alpha, 115 years old this year. So lots of heritage, lots of differentiation, and not just another premium brand being offered. So, and then our final brand, and I'll bring it together, is Leap Motor. Leap Motor from an alternative energy point of view, offering BEV, which is full electric vehicles, as well as having, and I don't want to call it a hybrid because it's not a hybrid, it's a range extender, but offering alternative energy vehicles. The great part about this is there's lots of tech. This is a tech company that has become a car company, very similar to the likes of a Tesla and a BYD. This year alone, Leap, one of the fastest growing brands within China. We've introduced it into our Mauritius market, and will soon, by August, September, introduce it into South Africa with an alternative energy car. Roughly, starting with that C10 at roughly the 850,000 Rand mark, which you can see again is well below where other alternative energy brands are. But most importantly, it gives us entry into that space, but it gives us access to technology platforms and alternative energy which can be utilized in any of our other brands within the lineup, and it gives us that nimbleness which other brands don't have. So ultimately, when you walk into a showroom, instead of walking into a Toyota and then having to leave Toyota to go to BMW to go buy your premium end car, you walk in and you can buy. Your first-time buyer can buy his son or his daughter at varsity a 250,000 Rand Citroen, but he can also cater for himself by buying himself a Jeep Grand Cherokee or a Jeep Wrangler. So it's ultimately the ultimate shopping experience, peace of mind under one roof, dealing with one brand, opposed to dealing with a multitude of brands, and the clutter in terms of the offerings, be it from a warranty, be it from a service plan, or be it just from having one contact point.
Okay, no, that's great. So, Graham, now I'm going to get into the thing I think you probably enjoy the most. So, what type of activities do you engage in with your sales managers, your sales performance managers? So like, what activities do you engage with, dealing with them or dealing with your dealers? Like, just the different activities. Like, when you start your day, what is in Graham's diary? Like, where do you start? What are the focus areas? What do you engage in?
So you're right, this is typically, you had me tongue twisted earlier on because I had to call on every bit of my knowledge base of my short time at the organization. And also, even though I'm a marketing graduate.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
So my background is marketing. I studied marketing, but I had an affinity for the sales side of the business. So I've always leaned towards that, but it doesn't mean that marketing has completely disappeared. So typically in my day, when my day starts, I've got 4 regional managers, I've got 30 odd dealers that falls within the space. So the first thing I look at is stock, because in my world, what I sell is stock.
Yeah.
and what I'm responsible for is stock, and how I generate revenue is by selling stock.
Yeah.
So typically I would open up my stock sheet in the morning. I would go through the stock during the month, or depending on which time of the month, I would go through the sales. I would see what we've sold so far for the month, where the dealers are from an invoicing point of view, where they are from an activity point of view, and that's probably in the first 2 weeks of the month. So I divide my month into little segments. So the first 2 weeks of the month, you kind of have a hangover from the previous month. So you look at what's happened in the previous month. Mm-hmm. Dealers are clearing out their stock. They're preparing the activities, their marketing, their sales plan for the new month. So a lot of the first 2 weeks of what I do and what I engage with is where you with your stock, where you with your activities to drive that stock, how you're going to clear out your stock, what marketing activities are you embarking on, what and activities from a prospecting point of view. In order to get to a number or into a retail number or invoicing number for a dealership, there's a lot of sales funnel activities that need to almost precede that. So typically in order for a dealership to be selling 20 cars a month, you would need to generate at least 300 to 400 touch points with clients. So being from phone calls to walk-ins to a dealership, to marketing activations, email database, workshop duty where you would call on your current database that comes and visits your workshop on a daily basis, going out into mall displays, one-to-one marketing. So a lot of what we focus on a day-to-day basis is the stock that we have, the activities that our dealers base themselves on, and how we're going to sell them, obviously, more stock to generate more revenue, but in return to give them more sales.
No.
Not just sales,
but Graham, you like, and my professor's gonna see this, but you're kind of lying, because like you also touch points with everybody else in the organization. I've seen the way you come to us, the brand and marketing guys, the product guys, the way you engage with dealer network development. I mean, I think you're like a spider. Like you have your feelers on everything that's happening in the organization, and I think what people don't realize is, they think sales is the end of the, we do the fluffy, what, put the wrong cars together and then we send them off to you guys to sell. But for me, what has been interesting, because I've worked with you previously in a different capacity, is to see how you pull on certain levers to try influence the outcome of the sales that you guys have to deliver. So I mean, from my point of view, like it's I have a totally different view of what sales does in this role that I'm in versus, the role I was in at our previous employer. So it's actually, it's bigger than I thought. You don't just sell cars.
No, it's bigger than that, but that is why I kind of started with where my career started, because I think without sounding arrogant, I think I'm very unique in the motor industry in the role that I run and the knowledge base that I carry. And on purpose, I geared my career towards this. So I studied marketing and I ended up in sales. And I mean, we know marketing is quite nimble and you can move in any direction, but you generally don't find a marketing graduate ending up in sales.
True.
So I was, with purpose, I studied what I did. I ended up in sales, but my sales journey has also not been a very straightforward journey, which kind of answers you. So if you go to any of the other organizations and you go ask their head of dealer sales, how do they go about it? What levers do they pull to make their month happen or to make the sales happen? It's generally very one-dimensional,
Yes.
and sometimes it's dual. Very seldom it goes into different directions. And I'll give you an idea why it's so I call myself the multinational of the sales environment. and the reason for that is I studied marketing. I pursued a sales career. I worked from about 2000 to 2012. I worked in the OEM space, which is the manufacturer. I started my career at Nissan, which was a volume brand and a manufacturing brand. I worked in the fleet division, where I literally had to go cold call on fleets. And back then, Nissan had the 1400 bakkie, so we weren't very popular. No one wanted the vehicles. I literally had to go to the likes of the GlaxoSmithKlines, the Coca-Colas, to the Netcare 911s, to go knock on their doors and market my product to them, but at the same time try and sell the product to them. And it wasn't a hard sell because you're the OEM.
Yes.
But I was commission driven and I was commission based. And to give you an idea, and it sounds very silly, I was working for Chris that time.
Yes.
When he brought me up, I earned 10,000 Rand a month as a basic salary. I had to pay my perks tax on my company car. I got a little bit of fuel. I got a cell phone. That's it. The rest was commission.
Crazy. And you were at an OEM level, and that's usually a structure we see at a dealership level.
Yes. So very much what Adrian and Cherise done in the office today, that was it. And back then there was no fancy systems like Salesforce and data management systems. I got given a wad of papers that was about that thick. It was thrown on my desk, and I was given the pharmaceutical, the beverage industry, and I was told, phone these people, make appointments with them, go see them, see what they're about, get information. So I was a information gathering more than a seller. I later then moved into the dealer space within Nissan. And at about 2006, I moved away for the first time from Nissan and I went into the premium space with Mercedes-Benz. Oh,
wait, can I stop you there? You said within Nissan, so you actually went to work for a dealership, a Nissan dealership. Is that what you're saying?
No. So within Nissan, I was a graduate. Yes. I was a contractor.
Yes.
Then I moved in Cape Town for 2.5 years.
Yes.
Then I moved to Fleet Department with Chris, still as a contractor, and I did that for about 2 years.
Okay.
Then I moved into dealer sales. We called it a SPO, which was a sales performance officer.
Okay.
So I was the junior version of a district sales manager.
Okay.
And I was reporting to a district sales manager, which had authority to make decisions.
Okay.
I was the operations, basically, and I had to learn.
All right.
7 months later, I got promoted to sales performance manager or full-on district sales manager. And that was all up here in Joburg.
Okay.
I then got transferred in 2005.
Yeah.
I got transferred back to Cape Town because there was a gap.
Yeah.
So already you can see the multinationalness in terms of my career.
Yeah.
I've now been a student or graduate. I've now worked in fleet department calling on end users.
Yes.
I've now moved into a junior position of a district sales manager.
Yeah.
I became a district sales manager. And then I got moved on to my home base, which is Cape Town, and sent back to Sacco and apply that knowledge base in the market that you know.
Yes.
I got headhunted by Mercedes-Benz, which I was very chuffed about because obviously I started becoming a household name brand. To move up to come into sub-Saharan Africa for Mercedes-Benz. So you must now know 2006 to go and work for Mercedes-Benz. Premium brand. I've worked for a volume brand to work in sub-Sahara.
Not safe.
I've never traveled beyond Namibia and Botswana in my life.
Yeah.
I took the opportunity. Back then they were called Daimler Chrysler. It was companies that was formed out of Mercedes-Benz, Jeep, what is this other brand? Chrysler, Dodge, and the truck side they had Mercedes-Benz trucks, Freightliner, and Star something they had. So Mercedes-Benz was already Daimler back then.
Yeah.
I looked after African markets, East African markets, Kenya, Zambia, Mauritius for my sins. I had to travel there every now and then. So I had about 4 or 5 markets that I looked after, and I had to travel there. You had to deal with very different challenges versus the South African dealer challenge. A market that wasn't fully matured, a market that had great opportunity to go sell this premium brand to your dealers. So very much what my regionals do today, but with different challenges in those markets.
Touching on, but just wait, I'm going to cut you there because now you're touching on the next question when you talk about your regionals. So what are their roles and where they're geographically based? Because I mean, I know previously pre-COVID, your Cape Town person would stay in Cape Town, your KZN person would stay, that's how it was done. But what roles do they currently have and where are they geographically based?
So what the way I've just recently split the regions again. So how we split them is we try to split them across regions. So we take a couple of formulas. Key and important is relationships and personalities, how they would adapt to that business relationship with that investor, with that business owner, with that group of dealers. So relationship being very at the heart of it. Then by region, then by dealer or investor group. For argument's sake, my one is looking after KZN. My one SPM looks after KZN. Within the KZN region, there's quite a strong CMH presence. So ultimately, she's based in Johannesburg. All of them are based in Johannesburg. Their job is the field. They spend 80 to 90% of their time out in the field with dealerships. So yet she's looking after that dealership. She will travel there once a month to the Durban region. CMH has a dealer up in Joburg, so I will give her the responsibility for CMH in Johannesburg as well. So all that means is that when we are speaking to the group and when we are speaking to the group head or when we're brokering a deal or when we're negotiating, we've got one person running that relationship. It's challenging because if they had to open a Cape Town dealer, I won't let her look after Cape Town because I've got another person that looks after Cape Town. Within the Cape Town region, you've got a little bit of Westvaal, which is part of a group of 7 dealers. You've got CMH, which is part of dealers that's essentially in Durban. So again, because of the relationship, because of him always having looked after Cape Town and having a very strong relationship, he looks after that. But as an example, within Cape Town, there's a dealership, Reeds Bellville, which belongs to the Sacco group.
Yes.
The Sacco group is essentially based in Johannesburg.
Yes.
So we give him a responsibility for the other 3 Sacco dealers up here in Joburg.
Yes, because it's one touch point. Yes.
Yes. So geographics, relationships, and then we try to keep the groups together from a negotiation and from an ease of communication point of view.
Which is very, very smart. Okay, so but now, because you spoke of challenges, like if CMH had to open a dealership down in Cape Town, you wouldn't give it to Belinda. But so for your sales team, your direct line, the people that report to you, you've mentioned a challenge for one, but what other challenges are there that they have to face, and what opportunities do you feel that salespeople in the market, in the automotive market, are facing? So what challenges are they facing, and what opportunities do you think are out there in the market for salespeople?
So salespeople. So traditionally, salespeople hovered towards the traditional brands, the traditional big 5, if I can call them that. So the Toyotas, the Nissans, the VWs, the Fords, if you throw the BMWs, the Mercedes, and you would notice that I mentioned quite a lot of companies that has affiliation to South Africa, that has investment in South Africa in terms of plants. Those companies generally had the monopoly in terms of this market because they get the benefit due to them obviously stimulating the economy and the market with jobs and with employment. Not just from a human capital point of view, but also from a supplier point of view, there was quite a lot of investment. So traditionally, when they priced their cars, etc., it was very competitive from an export point of view. It was very competitive, them getting credits from a local production point of view and pricing their cars competitively. So it was very much a closed market. We haven't had new entrants in this market in a very, very long time. I mean, if I look 10 years ago, the likes of the new Chinese brands that have entered our markets and some of the new Indian brands that have entered our market, we didn't have them. A Jayco, a Moda wasn't even spoken of in this market. So traditionally, we were a closed market. It was as competitive as fighting with the next guy in your segment. And our trading style was very similar. Whether you work for Nissan, Toyota, our trading style was very different. We had X amount of dealers. We had X amount of cars that we had to achieve and market share that we achieved. And it's been like that since the beginning of time. What has recently happened, and which is probably the biggest challenge across all brands, is the new entrants that has come into the market. The likes of Jetour, Jayco, Moda, Cherry, GWM, Mahindra, to name just a few, and there's a lot more coming into the market. all of a sudden entered the market at far lower price points because it's our perception they get quite a lot of support from the pilot markets from China.
Yeah.
We get it on good information that China supports them quite well because if you look at the quality of vehicle they deliver, if you look at the technological spec of the vehicle they
they've
deliver,
been subsidized.
And if you look at the price versus a similar segment vehicle that we offer as traditional brands, we most of the time are 100 to 150,000 and out on price.
Yeah.
So, and I get that and I understand that because they need to buy the market.
Yeah.
Where dealership makes its money and where its true income comes from is from a lot of streams. It's from new car sales, used car sales, parts sales to the workshop and to the man on the street, as well as labor sales of fixing all of the cars.
Yes.
Now, them being new entrants, they don't play in all those segments. They only play in new cars because they don't have a car park. They haven't sold enough cars to start servicing those cars. So they've got to give their dealers an opportunity. And the one way they do that is by giving them affordable cars, enticing the market with great pricing, great specification, which ultimately has now put your local producers on the back foot because we cannot match that. We do not have that level of support because they get it from government. Half, if not all of these Chinese brands that come into the country are government owned, where we are not government owned. You look at Nissan. Nissan is owned by Japan Automotive out in Japan. You look at Chery. Chery is government owned, and they're obviously looking to new markets to pilot themselves in and to expand their horizons to. So the biggest challenge that we have in this market today is the new entrants. The second challenge to that is to adapt to what these new entrants are doing because we believe it's short term and we believe it's not sustainable, and it's to continuously offer, and this is another challenge. How do we, in a market driven by price, driven by great value for money, differentiate ourselves? And this is a challenge with my dealers. It's a challenge with a lot of dealers. I mean, I've worked for Jaguar Land Rover on the premium side as well. We need to differentiate ourselves with service. Service in when a customer walks in through the front door. Service in doing in-home demonstrations to customers instead of them waiting to come into a dealership. Service in terms of when your car breaks down or your car comes in for a service, that I give you one of the latest models to drive and to have for the day and to give us that level of feedback. That is where we will differentiate ourselves. And because we've been a closed market and because we've been so reliant on just customers walking in and the only differentiator is my negotiation skill versus Toyota versus Nissan, we now need to change our game. And we need to change our game of how we go to market. And to change human behavior is difficult. To change that direction and to change takes time. So that is the challenge we are faced with daily.
Okay, so you answered a couple of questions all in one, which is good for me. You've also answered the one about how it was when you said you changed roles because you had the pleasure of working in South Africa and also dealing with SSA, which is great because one of the questions was how it is doing business in South Africa, which you've covered, and how it is doing business in other countries, and the challenges you had to face there. Okay, and the other question was what kind of sales opportunities are there in South Africa that are less common in the rest of the world?
Sorry, they are there.
What kind of sales opportunities are in South Africa that are less common in the rest of the world?
So sales opportunities that we have, one product and one gap in our market today, for argument's sake, is the half-ton segment.
Yes.
Which is a segment. It's a half-ton segment, but 3/4 ton. If you remember, Nissan 1400 Bucky,
yes.
Ford Bantam, Opel Corsa, Chevrolet.
Yes.
That used to be a value proposition from a purchase point of view that became a fleet offering because of its very competitive and low running cost. So you would, for instance, find a likes of a blood bank buying MP200s, not because the blood is heavy, but because it cost them it was quite affordable to run that vehicle.
Yeah.
The likes of your security companies running those vehicles. It's left a big gap in the market that a lot of that a lot of manufacturers are trying to plug with pseudo panel vans,
Yes.
where they take passenger cars and they convert them, which doesn't 100% address the need. Nowhere in the world other than Brazil, does this segment exist. And in Brazil, I think it exists more from a luxury point of view, more than from a utilitarian point of view.
Okay.
So from a product offering, it's probably one of the biggest opportunities. The other side of it, and we are a little bit delayed on it, and we're slow on it in South Africa, and a lot of manufacturers are played in that space and have burnt in that space, is electric vehicles and alternative energy vehicles. Just because it hasn't come out the blocks, just because it hasn't come as fast out of the blocks. I mean, Audi has played there with e-tron. Jaguar has played there with I-Pace. And if you listen to some of these brands, I'm telling you, it's premium brands that's been playing in that space. So it's not
expensive.
Affordable.
Yeah.
It's the ticket price has been anything from 1.6 million rand up.
Yes.
So great opportunity. It exists in the world, but not so much at the lower end in terms of price,
Yes.
in terms of pricing.
Yes.
So in South Africa, there's a market that's slowly starting to grow in terms of alternative energy, which is your hybrids and the lower end of the market, and the acceptance of that. It's going to take patience. It's going to take a lot of skill. And again, another challenge is the quality of sales consultants we have in this market. It's no longer, here's a car, it's got an aircon, it's got power steering, you buy the car. Customers are a lot more well-versed in the market these days. They are a lot more global. So that's another opportunity just in terms of product. In terms of people, we've got some good hardworking people in South Africa. We've got people that are well-versed within the motor industry. And I don't think we expose that or expand on that too well. We see here and there flutterings of people going into Africa to go work there or going into expat positions overseas. But it's not enough because we need that. The only reason why I'm a bit of a hybrid is because I forced my career. And the one area for that is a fully developed market to round you. So the more of us can spend time in other more mature markets and come back and apply that, the better for this market, which to me is a big gap in opportunity.
But now, like talking about that, when you talk about the quality of the people that we have, we work for a multinational, right? So how do you feel about, and what challenges do you think we face in terms of the strategy that the company has globally, initiatives, training, and all, do they apply to us? Like, what is your feeling around their strategy that they drive from the top, and how it applies to us in South Africa, and the training opportunities or lack of, or and things like that?
So very good one that you mentioned, because this week has been probably most challenging week just in terms of training. I feel that us as OEMs, if I can call it that, a lot of our activities is driven to tick a box.
Yes.
Tick a box for the seniors, tick a box for our overseas markets, and let's use training. We know we need to do training, but half the time the training is dictated in terms of what comes out of pilot market. The marketing is dictated, and the marketing collateral is dictated. For argument's sake, I mean, you would know about it. The Citroen collateral you struggled with for local.
Yeah.
You literally had to put up a fight to do something local in order to speak to your market, in order to appeal to your market. And it's exactly the same with training. As an example, the overseas market believes in a lot of online training, which is great, but maybe in Europe there's time to do that. Maybe in the other markets there's time. There's cordoned off spaces for these salespeople to do that. They've got laptops which they can do it in their own space. In markets such as ours, traditionally salesman has a desktop on his desk. He sits in an open plan environment where anybody from a customer looking for the parts department walks by. So he does not have that interaction or that feel and touch. I think we've lost a lot in terms of when we latched onto doing the training that is dictated to, opposed to doing the more touch, feel, classroom training, and more adapted to the local market. For this market, because South Africa is vast, We've got some of the manufacturers has got 100 dealers, 200 dealers, the case of Toyota. And in order to affect that, you either got to have training all around the country in 3-4 different provinces, or you've got to have training centrally if you're a smaller brand such as us, which comes with cost. So we've adapted a lot to adjust to, one, the global way of doing things, but we've lost a lot in terms of skilling and schooling our people and adapting to our local market, which the South African market has got a lot of local feel, and we need to speak the local language, not literally the local language, but when we do an ad, it needs to speak to the guy in the cassie.
It must feel like it was done for me. Yeah.
And we don't do enough of that.
Not true. No, that's true, Graham. So I think in closing, the final question was, the main challenges you face, like when formulating your sales strategy, given all these things that we've been talking about, so what are the main challenges that you face in your sales strategy, and how do you manage them?
So, lack of patience, lack of understanding. And when I say this, I don't mean it badly towards the seniors, but I mean it towards the total company.
Yes.
There's a serious lack of patience. Yeah. There's a lack of understanding, not just of my role, but of the market and what needs to be achieved, and ultimately lack of funding or budgets.
Yeah.
And I'll elaborate a bit. Lack of patience. We want the numbers now. We want to grow now. Lack of budgeting, but we don't want to invest more from a fixed marketing point of view in marketing, in localization of ads, in the agency. You almost got to spend 10 Rand to get 1 Rand back within a year in the motor industry, if I can almost liken it to that degree. And too many projects on the table.
True.
Let's take 1 or 2 things.
Focus.
Let's drive that. Yeah. We know we got the Chinese onslaught. We know our guys need a lot of training and they need a lot of hand holding. No one is saying throw the money at the cars to be competitive with them. But it's a lack of understanding, funding, and patience.
Wow. No, but Graham, thank you very much for taking out of your busy day, because I know you're super, super busy. As much as I know you, today I learned things that I didn't know about you, because I thought I knew, and I think I said this at our previous employer that, I need to get into sales at some point. I don't know if I'm ready, because it's a scary world, especially in automotive. But what you shared today has just given me a different perspective, to the benefits I could actually get if I do venture into sales. But I really appreciate you being a part of my journey for this elective sales and business development. And thank you very much, Graham. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, very much appreciated, and good luck with your studies and your way forward. Good luck with career. Looking forward to see you in the sales environment.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Graham. Have a good one. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.